All right, we're live. We
Hey,
are talking about Northern Colorado
yeah,
and maybe a little bit about what it's like to move from California to Colorado and then move really anywhere from Colorado. So, Mike, thank you so much as the representative of Northern Colorado and
yeah, thanks.
tell us where that is.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me on. I'm kind of, it's a unique situation that I'm in, being that I just moved here. So I'm actually going to be hopping from like Airbnb to Airbnb for the next couple months until I really decide like where my market is and where I want to specifically be, which kind of gives me a lot of freedom. So that's why I just kind of said Northern. So like effectively like Fort Collins area, I can, work Boulder area. I'm probably going to live somewhere in between the two. A place called Longmont is what I'm thinking. So, and Jody's lived
Oh,
both places. What do you tell us what you think about those places? And I can definitely use any insight right now.
yeah, Jody, shoot us a comment on what you think about them. That's awesome. And do you want to share where you actually came from? Because that's explaining a little bit more about why you're in this kind of in between position.
Yeah, definitely. So I've been in Texas for most of my life, Houston specifically. So I moved, I guess I left there on the first. It's what, the 10th now? So I've been here for 9 days. Um, and just
Just
decided it was
just a
time for
couple
me.
days.
Time's irrelevant. It's a social construct anyway. Um, but yeah, my brother lives in like the Four Corners area, like Southwest Colorado. And I haven't seen him in a while, so it was good to drive up there, stayed with him for a few days before my Airbnb, actually went live. So stayed in Southwest. I mean, tiny town, 1,200 people, but awesome to get acclimated. This elevation has been killer, but also just do some exploring. So he's kind of in the as remote as it gets for Southwest Colorado.
Nice. And I've never been to Colorado, so I have no real concept because besides what I've read and heard about and all of that, but never being there, I don't really know what the lifestyle is. I just automatically assume you think Colorado, you think outdoor lifestyle, right? And
Definitely.
you have milder weather in the summers and you have very cold weather in the winters. And that's kind of the only thing that I know about that state. And so I'd love to hear. I know this is kind of the beginning process for you, but I'd love to hear what you've seen so far on who's moving there, where are people moving from to get to Colorado in that area, and what you're seeing at the moment, or at least what you're hearing.
Yeah, for sure. And I didn't just I kind of make it seem like I just moved on a whim. But there's a little bit of method to my madness often. So I did a lot of research, like where money moves and things like that. And it seems like the top three states moving here are California, Texas, and Florida. Um, which is kind of interesting. Like obviously I'm from Texas, so I've moved here. But an even more interesting fact that I saw, I think it was 2019. So this is pre-pandemic numbers. It was the most recent numbers I could find during my research. Is that um, there are actually more residents moving in from out of state than moving within state, and more residents leaving state than moving in. So the population actually shrunk a little bit in 2019, which I thought was super intriguing.
That is interesting because you hear all the time that Californians are leaving and never coming back, and we have more people leaving than coming. But I hear a lot of people moving to Colorado. So I just would assume that it's one of the big migration states, right? And
Definitely. And
that's
like
a
I said,
really
that was a
shocking number.
2019 number, so things definitely
Right.
changed.
Yeah. And things have, I would assume, increased since then, right?
Definitely,
Including during the pandemic and post pandemic.
for sure.
And
And even
one
now, like I mean, I've been here for over a week now, and I've seen so many out of state license plates.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And do you think that you hear, for example, in Idaho, right, that more people are thinking that you should change your license plate almost immediately, right? That people aren't
Yeah.
very kind to outside visitors. So do you feel like it's the same in Colorado?
So depending on where you're at, for sure. My brother's town, definitely they treat you differently. But I mean, I don't even have Texas plates on my car because I bought it and it has paper plates from Florida. I got it shipped to me and I was like, well, I'm moving in a couple months. I'm not even going to deal with it. So I got the title transferred and just left it at that. So
Yes.
I haven't personally experienced it, but I know there is probably a bit of truth to that. More on the the western side, the western slope versus the front range. So kind of each side of the Rockies has their own name, I guess you can call it. So like the front range is everything east of the Rockies, and then the western slope is obviously western. So yeah, I definitely noticed it western slope, but not so much here because I have seen so many. Plus, Fort Collins and Boulder are both college towns.
Yeah, that's true. So there's a lot of migration there anyway for that reason.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And then would you say there's some big companies that are requiring people to move there or allowing people to move there that are driving it? Or what are the reasons that people are moving to that area?
I didn't see a ton in my research of like companies that are pushing for the move. I think obviously in the last couple of years, we've all experienced an increase in work from home for most companies. So there's definitely going to be a lot of people that have found that freedom and decided to move to Colorado. But I haven't seen as much like companies doing that. I think the biggest driver is kind of the same reason that I moved here, is just outdoor lifestyle, like you talked about.
And what are some of your favorite things as far as outdoor lifestyle that drew you to Colorado?
I mean, mountains have a big place in my heart. So I'm a mountain biker. I'm a rock climber, into like paddleboarding and stuff like that. And there's a couple lakes around here as well. So mostly mountain biking and rock climbing, and definitely winter sports. I've lived in Texas most of my life, except for 1 year I spent up in Seattle, and learned to snowboard that year, and have just been itching ever since. So I'm excited to go out and shred some pow this summer or this winter.
Nice. It's coming soon.
Oh, I know. It was 39 degrees when I woke up this morning.
39?
Yeah.
Okay, it's changing. It's happening.
it's happening whether you like it or not.
Yeah. And that kind of leads to my next question. So aside from my assumptions on Colorado and my clearly limited knowledge, what are the seasons like? Do they have real seasons in Colorado? Do you get actual seasons, throughout the year, or is it just winter and summer?
No, there's definitely seasons. I've already, like I said, I moved here a week and a half ago, but I've been here twice this year already. So I came in March for a snowboarding trip, and that was obviously winter. It was snowing on us the whole time. No complaints there. That was the purpose of the trip. And then I came here in July to kind of visit some friends, and that was summer. But it's kind of different, right? Like a Houston summer, it gets hot. It might hit 100, maybe 105 or whatever, but the worst part is the humidity. So it's just the sticky heat, and I couldn't take it. So like when I was up here in July, it maybe got to like 95, but it was dry. And, I went to the lake, and everything was fine. And then as soon as that sun starts setting behind the mountains and casting shadows, it was getting pretty cold. So
interesting.
It's definitely different, but like right now we're in fall. Driving across the state from my brothers to here, you can definitely see the colors changing. The aspen trees turn a bright yellow. That's really pretty. So I'm going to start posting some of those photos. I took a bunch. So
yeah,
you be sure to follow me right here.
No, right there. I'm pointing the wrong direction. I'll just keep going.
One of these ways.
Yeah. And that's what is really cool. I think in California, there's a few things actually that it makes me think of. So first of all, we have technical seasons, but we really have summer and winter, right? It's either you wear flip-flops or you wear rain boots. Really our rain boots are kind of retired here too. So we don't get true seasons. And we're also kind of losing our true winters in Tahoe, which is where most people think of winter in California. And our Tahoe areas are starting to become more mountain houses than snow resort homes. And, the snow line is not as great as it used to be. We're not getting as much snow. So dreaming of being in a place where it's kind of a winter wonderland and there's actual seasons, it sounds wonderful, right? And that's one of the reasons that I've heard a few of my clients move to Colorado for is they miss the seasons. They have a second home in Tahoe, but they barely get snow anymore. It's all man-made snow, right? So things are changing significantly here. So they kind of crave that feeling somewhere else now.
Which is interesting because in the last couple of years, it feels like every report I've seen from Tahoe has been snow levels are too high. Like I remember a couple of years ago, like the chairs were dragging on the snow because there was too much snow and they had to shut down the lifts. But
well, it's the issue of it happening too much too soon, right? So it would be fine if it was just a steady pace of snowfall. But what happens is we have a couple epic storms and that causes a monumental amount of snow to come out. And then you run into the problem of, oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. So it runs into the problem of all of a sudden the resorts and everywhere else cannot handle the amount of snow that's coming all at one time, right? It's just a dumping of snow. So anyway, this conversation doesn't need to all surround snow, even though that's what I think about in Colorado. But let's talk a little bit more about the market there, because I know things are kind of interesting nationwide, but granted, you're new to the area. What do you know as far as the average price point in, let's use some of your key areas that you're thinking about.
Yeah.
So where would that be?
The average price point around me, and I did do research and I've kind of been monitoring it, for the last couple of months before I got here. And granted, it's all suburban too, so keep that in mind. But it's like $375 to $400.
Okay. For what type of house?
So like $375 to $400, you're looking at townhomes, 2 single family, kind of depending on the build and a location, obviously. Where 400 plus in the city in Denver is going to be townhome at best. So been kind of watching those, and I've definitely seen that's probably the same in your market as well, and the same as in Houston, is where if the house is properly marketed and properly priced, it's going to sell quickly. Where I have seen a little bit more of things sitting on the market, especially with some listings I still have back in Houston. They're kind of spending a little bit more time in the market, but as far as like huge price reductions, I'm not seeing them here.
Yeah. And we're seeing exactly the same thing. I mean, we are seeing some slumps on prices, but a lot of it is the overappreciated areas that kind of skyrocketed anyway, and they were overinflated and kind of artificially inflated, right? So those are the areas for us that are coming down, but still, I mean, 400,000 price point is a dream for California in any case. And again, that's why a lot of people are going that direction, right? I mean, people want something that is quote unquote more affordable, and granted, affordability is in the eye of the consumer. Someone selling their home for 1.5 million suddenly has a lot more to play with when they're relocating to a place like yours.
Definitely.
So is it common to have, so I know you mentioned Denver, which I assume is a very typical metro type city, right? So you have your mix of condos and townhomes and things like that. But generally surrounding that, is it mostly suburban outside of Denver?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of depends on which direction you go. I mean, if you go south, half hour to 45 minutes, you're at Colorado Springs, which is, its own metro area, but it's more or less suburban, where, I picked up a friend from the airport this morning, which Denver airport is far removed from Denver itself, but you have to pass through a lot of farmland. I was watching farmers gather crops this morning on my drive in. So it's kind of like peppered throughout. You have urban, suburban, and then farm, and then back into suburban, and then more farm, and then back into other suburban. So it's an interesting mix.
Okay. Yeah. And that, again, I wouldn't expect that, right? I wouldn't expect the farmland as much as the other things. So that's really good to know. And as far as if someone is moving to your area specifically, and they're thinking about moving there, what bit of advice would you start with? What areas would you recommend if they're relocating from another state? What would be the first steps?
Yeah, for sure. Kind of multi-part question. I mean, how I'm doing it, I'm really happy with how I'm doing it because, like I said, I'm going to be kind of Airbnb hopping. And granted, very unique situation, right? Like I got rid of all my furniture in Houston, got rid of most of my things. Like I'm living out of my car at the moment, so I can just drop everything at an Airbnb for a month and then figure out, the places around there and then kind of keep moving around. I think it kind of depends on what lifestyle you're trying to live. If you're trying to live the more younger urban life, definitely like Fort Collins and Boulder, they've got college towns, like I said, so they've got a lot more nightlife to kind of cater to that. But Denver's also going to have a fair bit of that as well. It's just in a much larger area. If you're looking for outdoor stuff, but still like kind of adjacent to those, like I said, I'm probably going to end up in a city called Longmont. It's in between, kind of like Fort Collins, Boulder, Denver, kind of like in the middle-ish, where like my biggest concern is getting to the mountains. So I can go up towards Estes Park or, over to I-70 corridor and have a couple of different options for mountain biking or snowboarding. And I don't mind driving coming from Houston. So everything's an hour away in Houston. So I don't really mind a little bit of distance. So it just kind of depends on the lifestyle you're looking to live.
Got it. And as far as your experience, again, because this is something that you know well right now, what do you think is the biggest transition moving from Texas to Colorado for you personally?
Man,
Throw me a couple pros and cons of relocating.
Cons, I'll definitely say gas prices are a bit higher here. Better part of $1 a gallon more. But the pro being you live closer to the places you want to be. Again, my lifestyle, outdoors oriented, there's not a lot of that in Houston. So I'd spend less to live there, but then I'm traveling 4 to 5 times a year to the places I want to be. If you balance that out to a little bit higher cost of living, but less travel expenses, it really doesn't make a ton of difference. I'm going to say for me personally, the pro is the weather. I'm not a big fan of the heat. I can always put another flannel or a jacket on and deal with the cold, but there's only so much you can do with the heat. I do miss, there's probably a lot more diversity in Houston from what, at least my experience. Granted, like I said, I've been there forever, so I know all the different spots. I know where you can go to parts of town and the street signs aren't even in English. They're in, Vietnamese or whatever. There's tons of diversity in Houston, which bleeds into the food and the culture. So I do miss that part. There's not a ton of good Tex-Mex food here that I've found. So.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah, and people don't even know what it
Tex-Mex is not going to go so well in Colorado, or it may go well. Oh, we have an unexpected visitor. It may go well, but it just doesn't exist because that's just not the region for it, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So on that topic, and again, I know you're new to the area, but are there a few spots that you found that you're like, oh my gosh, this food's amazing, or this bar is amazing? Hit me with a few of your favorites that you've discovered so far.
Man, I'd be lying to say I've discovered a ton. Because, and this is one of those adaptation things. I'm staying in a mountain town right now because I kind of splurged for my first month. I wanted to see what it was like.
Yeah.
Mountain town shut down early.
Yeah.
So everything closes, 7 or 8 o'clock. So I went out last night at 11 or 8:30 looking for dinner, and I'm like, I'm out of luck. So I got to, drive into a different town, which again, is not a big issue for me, just roll the windows down and enjoy the weather. But as far as specific places, I can't really think of anything particular. I'm still learning.
Okay, that's okay. And the fun thing is if people are relocating to your area, they're going to be learning with you. And it's really fun to just kind of explore things and to go on Yelp and figure out what's recommended. So we'll hear more from you in the future on some of your favorite spots, right?
Definitely, yeah.
All right. Well, Mike, thank you so much for taking the time and spending it with me today. Let the people know where to find you. So where are you? Do you want to go Instagram? Where's your favorite platform and how can they find you?
Yeah, Instagram right here, Mike Brand Real Estate. I made it easy. I've got a website. It's Move Me to Colorado with the number 2, Move Me to CO. It's rough around the edges at the moment. Like I said, we've been working through it, but
development.
Developmental stage, yes.
Yes.
But Mike Brand Real Estate is the easiest way to find me. Shoot me a DM. Be happy to help.
And social follows you. That's the best part. Even during relocation, you could always have the same social. All right, Mike, thank you so much. And for the rest of you, thank you so much for watching. If you have questions about moving to Northern Colorado, definitely see the info below for Mike's information. And if you're thinking about relocating to any state or within the state of California, let me know and I'll see you soon. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.